Prestige Cuvees. I mean, you know, the word Prestige Cuvée means very little, but I thought we'd just have a flight of some high-end wines just because it's fun. Most houses, growers, most producers in Champagne, you know, will have a sort of hierarchy of cuvées where there will be one cuvée that's sort of the most expensive, the strictest selection. Maybe it comes from their oldest vines, you know, and you know, really designed to demonstrate the best of what that producer can achieve, which for us is great, right? Because we like to drink good wine. So this the first one that we have is Cammille Saves, you know, their Prestige Cuvée. It's a new wine for them, you know, like the single vineyard wines. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but again, you know, Cammille Saves for me is all about boozy, and you know, again, when, you know, as soon as you taste this wine, like that's what really jumps out at me. I think too, though, in this wine, you know, if you think about the other Cammille Saves wines that we've tasted today, here there's more finesse. I really like the texture. There's more complexity of flavor on the palate. You know, you see that it's a high-end wine, and I think that, you know, what it's seeking to do, it does really well. And especially on the finish, I think, like you know, in some of the other wines, we've seen how boozy gives like ripeness and breadth, but here it's not only doing that, but also giving complexity and minerality on the finish, you know, in a much more pronounced way than the others, and I think that's really cool. For the second wine, we're going back to the Côte des Blancs and back to the village of Chouilly. Vazart-Coquart is in the Club Trésor, which is a growers organization that was founded in 1971. You know, back in the 70s, nobody knew or cared about like estate bottled champagne. So there were a number of growers who got together to try and market their wines. You know, to create this organization, create a sort of charter of quality, and you know, help, like, in doing so, help each other to market their wines. So they created this club, and they created this cuvée called the Special Club. The Special Club, you know, it's intended to be the prestige cuvée of the house. It's intended to be the best wine of the cellar. It has to undergo two tasting panels, really, and it's not just tasting panels. These tasting panels are not just like their peers. It's also like third-party enologists, and so it's, you know, they're trying to be really serious about this. And wines actually do get rejected, but so it has to pass as Van Clair, as still wine. It has to go through a tasting, and then as finished champagne, it has to go through another tasting. If it passes through both of these, then it's allowed to be labeled as a special club. So Vazart has been in the club since like the mid-90s, 1996, I think, around then. They do a really interesting thing where, they have two cuvées. One is the Special Club, and one is called the Grand Bouquet, and it's the same wine, the exact same wine. But the Grand Bouquet goes through its second fermentation under capsule, and the Special Club goes through second fermentation under cork. And that makes a huge difference. It's a very complex subject, and in Champagne you can talk to 5, you know, or 10 different winemakers about this subject, and you'll get 10 different answers. But In general, I think that the difference between cork aging and capsule aging, it's kind of like the difference between barrel fermentation and stainless steel. There's that little micro-oxidation that happens with aging under cork that changes the character of the wine. But you don't really see it. If you're aging your wine for like less than 6 to 8 years on lees, then you don't really see much of a difference. Like even at 4 or 5 years, the difference between if you're tasting the same wine from capsule and cork, it's not really all that apparent. It's only after that that you really see a pronounced difference. But so Vazart has been doing this for a long time, and yeah, if you ever get the chance to go and visit, it's really interesting to talk to Jean-Pierre Vazart about what he's discovered in doing this for like over a decade, 2 decades now. Normally, capsules are standard, right? So it's like a beer cap. So when the wine is bottled, the whole thing, like still wine's put in a bottle with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of yeast, and then it's bottled with a capsule, and that capsule stays on there for the whole period of lees aging until it's disgorged. Capsules have been around since the 50s, 60s. Of course, before that it was always cork. But today there are a number of producers who are returning to cork, for that second fermentation. It's a lot of work. It's much more labor intensive because all of this has to be then disgorged by hand. Also, you essentially double your risk of cork taint, right? At Philippe Pinat, Clos de Goisse always used to be bottled under cork, and they actually had to stop because they were having such problems with TCA, and that's a pity. But so now they do a portion under cork and a portion under capsule. But yeah, it's a subject that really deserves to be explored further. So this Vazart, like all of his wines, it's 100% Shui. It comes from his oldest vines, and it's consistently the top wine of the cellar. So this was on its lees a long time. So let's see. This bottle, so this was disgorged in July of 2014. So this is 2007. That means it was bottled in 2008, beginning of 2008, and so then up until the summer of 2014. So that's a little over 6 years. And that's really about the point where you start to see the effects of cork aging. So yeah, the third wine, Dom Perignon. Of course, Dom Perignon started off life as the Prestige Cuvée of Moet. Today they've spun it off as a separate brand. So LVMH really wants you to think of it as a separate brand, as distinct from Moet. But the winemaking aesthetic, the aesthetic remains very much similar. You smell this and it smells like a Moet wine, right? Again, very heavily reductive in style. The chef de cave, Richard Geoffroy, he likes to describe aromas in terms of color. So like he says, like reductive flavors for him are very gray. And so it's these like smoky things and like these stony things. Whereas oxidative aromas for him are brown. So like coffee and like, torrefaction and like, these things. And he hates oxidation. Like he's seeking to remain as firmly in the gray spectrum as he possibly can. Even on the palate, this is so smoky. And the thing is that because of that reduction, Dom Perignon, I always think it really takes a long time to express itself. And I think one of the great ironies of Dom Perignon is that it never, it always tastes better after 10 or 20 years, and yet the vast majority of it is drunk up, in its youth at like nightclubs and whatever. And so it's just weird, But if you ever do get the opportunity, to taste like Dom Perignon in maturity, it's one of the greatest experiences in Champagne. So, I mean, I guess that's what like Enotech or like P2, P3 are for, but who can afford that? But yeah, I mean, Dom Perignon, I think is another. I think wines like this, Dom Perignon, Cristal certainly. These are wines that really demand a lot of bottle aging. I think 15 to 20 years, minimum to really show their best. And so because of that, they're often misunderstood. And I think also because they're so ubiquitous. You can buy Dom Perignon in every bar around the world, and you can buy Cristal everywhere too. And so because of that, we tend to think maybe a little bit lesser of it. But in fact, these are two of the great wines of Champagne, and they don't often taste as they're not always the most compelling wines in their youth, but with age they reward you immensely. So again, here with the third and fourth wines, we have the contrast between the Moet style and the Cliquot style. As I was saying before, La Grande Dame is intended to show more of the finesse of Pinot Noir than its power. So I think that it's always really interesting to have in the same tasting the Cliquot's vintage wine and Grande Dame together, because you see the difference in aesthetic. And I think that's apparent here. I think that the the vintage wine was overtly larger. More about concentration, more about intensity of flavor. And here really focusing on its elegant structure, and I think that's what Grande Dame is all about.